and you lead me into places you want me to go. And he is talking about surrendering his life and turning his life over to the leadership of God. Have you ever prayed for guidance? And then when the guidance came, you didn't like where it was leading? Have you ever been there? Tell me what you want me to do. Okay, do this. But I don't want to do that. We do that sometimes with God, don't we? We pray, God, lead me. Show me what you want me to do. And so he leads us, and he gives us a word, and he gives us his wisdom. And we think that's fine, but I don't want to do that. We've been looking at the wisdom of God. We've been looking through the book of Proverbs and trying to get his guidance, his wisdom on all kinds of things, the friends we choose. But God, I like the friends I want, not the friends you want for me. Talking about his money, about how we manage his money. We think, but God, it's my money. I want to manage it my way. We get guidance from God, but sometimes we don't listen to God. We don't want to follow until we get the guidance that we want. Have you been there? I find myself there a lot. When God says, and it's clear, he says, do this. You don't want to do it. Forgive somebody and love them the way I have loved you, he says. But God, they're hard to love. They're hard to embrace. They're hard. I don't feel good about this relationship. He says, do you want guidance or not? You pray for guidance. You ask me for wisdom. You ask me to lead you in the ways that you want me to go, that I want you to go. You have to be willing to respond and say, okay, I will, and here's the hard one, it's that O word. Obey. I will obey. We sing a song, Trust and Obey. Old song, but wow, what a powerful message. When we walk with the Lord in the light of his way, I will trust and obey. We're looking at some of the wisdom of God, and we want to trust him. But trusting means that we have to obey. We have to do the things that he's done, the things that he has called us to. And I started with you last week on the big sin. I want to spend a few weeks talking about this because it is a big one, and it grabs us in so many ways. The big sin, it's a big lie that we fall into and we believe. And God warns us against us, but we still fall into this trap. This is the lie that I flatly refuse to. I don't want to believe this lie. I don't want to follow it. And yet, I find that sometimes I order my whole life around it. And I use this lie to guide my own steps until I find myself in a mess. And I repent. And I come back. What is this lie? Do you remember what we talked about last week? Of course you do, don't you? I'll tell you, if I didn't have my notes, I wouldn't remember either. So, let me tell you. This big lie is the lie that says it all depends on you. This is the lie that says you are the one in control. You have to manage things. You have to make the calls. You have to do it. It all depends on you. And so you have to be the one in charge. You have to be the one in control. And we like that lie. We like to be in control. We like to make things work around us the way we want to make them work. And we hate that we don't like that O word, that obey word. But as much as we don't like that, we don't like that S word that says submit to God's leading. Submit to his discipline. Submit to his wisdom. Submit to his teachings. We like to be the ones in the driver's seat, don't we? I do. And yet he says this. Proverbs 3, 5 through 6. He says, trust in who? Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And lean not on whose understanding? Our own. Don't lean on our own understanding. But God, you've given me wisdom. You've given me a brain to work with. Surely I can see things and figure them out and lean on the wisdom that I can understand with my own heart and head. But God's wisdom says, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Let's pray about this. Father, we're here this morning to bring honor to You. But Father, I know we don't bring honor to You by coming and sitting in a building. We bring honor to You by the way we live our lives, according to Your will. So Father, we are here this morning from all kinds of walks, from all kinds of places. And we pray that You would speak to us, that You would lead us. But Father, give us Your heart. Give us Your passions. Give us Your understanding. Give us Your wisdom. Father, I know that we fall flat sometimes, that according to our wisdom, we find ourselves in tangled webs, in messes. Father, guide us this morning to see You and Your ways. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. This whole idea of submitting to the Lord, not trusting your own self, but giving yourself over to God and trusting His guidance, is huge. We look in the Bible and we see people who did unlikely things, unlikely people who did unlikely things, and God did amazing things through them. Who was Noah when God called him? He didn't think he was anybody special. Who was Moses? Well, Moses grew up in the palace of the king, yes, but he was running for his life, and he had run away for the 40 years he was gone. And God called him out of leading sheep out in the Midian desert to go back to Egypt and lead His people out. Who were these people? They were ordinary people. James tells us that it was ordinary people, just like you and I, that prayed to God, and God stopped the sun from moving for a whole day. He stopped the rain. He started the rain. He did things through people. God gives us the ability to approach Him and to seek His ways. And He says, you will find me and you will do greater things. Jesus said, when I go to the Father, I'm going to send the Spirit back to you, and you will do greater things than I've done. That's a scary saying to me. I don't know about it to you. How many of you have done greater things than Jesus? I'm looking. That was a promise of Jesus. I will send the Spirit to you, and you will do greater things than I. And I look at my life and I say, I don't think I've done greater things than Him. Then what's wrong? Did Jesus not speak the truth? Or have I not appropriated His Spirit and followed His guidance like I should? So I have to answer some tough questions. If I'm not doing greater things than Jesus, then whose guidance am I following? Am I following my own wisdom, or am I following God's? I want to share a New Testament story with you today that you don't immediately think of when you think about wisdom and guidance. And yet, I think it's centered all around that whole idea of submission and putting God in control. If you have your Bibles, open it up to Luke chapter 4. Luke chapter 4. We're going to read this passage, this story about Jesus. Jesus was on a roll. Things were going well for Him. He had just been baptized. John the Baptist had said, look, this is the one I was telling you about. This is the one whose sandals I'm not even worthy to untie. This is the one who God was going to send and restore the kingdom of Israel. This is the one. And all the people are looking at Jesus. They're starting to follow Him. The movement is getting its start. He's baptized into the Jordan River. The dove comes down and the voice speaks from heaven and says, this is my Son, in whom I am well pleased. there is a great demonstration of God's work and of God's provision and God's anointing on Jesus' shoulders and of who He is and God's pleasure with that. And what's the next thing in that story that Jesus does? He calls all His disciples together and starts this huge public ministry, doesn't He? Except for a small detour of about 40 days where He goes out into the desert alone. Let's see what happens out in the desert. Read with me. Luke chapter 4, starting in verse 1. Luke writes, Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit in the desert, where for 40 days He was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and at the end of them, He was hungry. The devil said to Him, if you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread. Jesus answered, it is written, man does not live on bread alone. The devil led Him up to a high place and showed Him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And He said to Him, I will give you all their authority and splendor, for it has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. So if you worship me, it will all be yours. Jesus answered, it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve Him only. Well, the devil led Him to Jerusalem and had Him stand on the highest point of the temple. If you are the Son of God, He said, throw yourself down from here, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you to guard you carefully. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. And Jesus answered, it says, do not put the Lord your God to the test. When the devil had finished all this tempting, he left him until an opportune time. I had a hard time understanding these temptations of Jesus. What did they really have to do with me? How did they relate to my daily life? These three temptations that are mentioned. I mean, I've never been tempted to turn stones into bread because I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I've never been tempted to seek political power. I'm not interested in political office. So all the kingdoms of the world, I don't want them. How is that a temptation that I face? And the whole idea of throwing myself off of a temple, no, thanks, that's not for me. I don't like. I could jump out of an airplane, I think, with a parachute. But I'm not going to jump off of something. These people that do base jumping, they jump off of rocks, mountains. No, I'm not going to do that. There's something about seeing that. I'm scared to death. So what does this have to do with my life? Is just something about Jesus? I think it has all the world to do with my life and the way I submit to God's guidance. So let's look at this for a minute. These temptations that Jesus went through, what were they? You remember, it started off and said, Jesus, we're not there yet, Howard. It says Jesus was tempted for how long? 40 days. He was tempted for 40 days. We think, no, wait. He was tempted at the end of 40 days. What did Jesus do out there in the desert for 40 days? And why was He out there in the first place? Well, He was led by the Spirit. Well, what happened for 40 days? It said for 40 days He was being tempted. And then it only mentions 3 temptations. And we need to do some reading between the lines when we read the Bible sometimes. You need to be careful how you read between the lines. But the Bible doesn't give us all the details. But understand, for 40 days He was out there struggling with something. There was just this big announcement when He was baptized. You are my Son. And then the Spirit led Him out to do business with God in the wilderness. Was this the time that God revealed to Him what was going to happen? Was this the time that God revealed to him, yes, you're going to live and die? At some point in Jesus' life, that was revealed to him. Was this the moment when Jesus had to say, okay, I surrender everything to your will. I will go to the cross. I will sacrifice everything. I will love these people. I will. We don't know what all was, but we do know that Satan called him into question. How do you know you're the Son of God? How do you know that what Jesus said was true? How are you going to follow his guidance? How are you going to listen to God's wisdom when you don't know this is for sure? And we fall into this temptation so many times. We had a sermon series not too long ago on the 7 deadly sins. You remember those? I can't find one of those sins that Satan threw at Jesus at this time. He didn't smack him with gluttony, not out in the wilderness. No wrath, no anger, no envy. No slothfulness on Jesus' part. He didn't hit him with any of those 7 deadly sins. He hit him with this one big whopper of a lie. It says, Jesus, you need to be in control. If you're going to be the Son of God, if you're going to do the things that he's calling you to do, you better be in control. And you better have your ducks in a row. And you better figure out exactly how this is going to happen. You better come up with a plan. He's called you to a big mission. You better have a plan to get it done. Let's look at these temptations. We have temptation number 1, the first one. Satan says to him, hey, God hasn't given you any food. If you depend on him, you just might starve. Have you ever wondered, does God really care? Is God going to save you? And I've heard people say, a Christian would never starve. I used to believe that until I did a little more research into what's happening in the world. There are Christians starving every day. There are Christians who will die today because they hold on to the name of Christ. There are Christians in the world who are being persecuted, their heads are being cut off because they wear the name of Jesus Christ. Where is God in that? And Satan's saying to Jesus, you haven't had any food. God led you out here into this wilderness. Is he taking care of you? It doesn't look like it. You are starving to death. The fat is gone. The muscle's being eaten up. For 40 days, when you don't eat, your body starts to consume itself. You are on the verge of death, Jesus. Do you think God really cares for you? You better take matters into your own hands. You've got the power to turn that rock into bread. It looks like you better do something because God is not. Have you ever been there? God's not doing the things I want him to do. God's not doing the things I think he should do. I need to get my ducks in a row and take care of business. When we started this search for a youth minister, we stopped and we took 40 days to pray. And in that prayer, we asked God for his leading and his guiding and his provision. Well, that was a year ago. And he hasn't given us a youth minister yet. Is God falling down on his job? Is God not being faithful to us? Because we prayed, didn't we? And I know some people, I heard the story. They said, this is a waste of time. We need to get busy. We need one right away. We need to get our ducks in a row and take care of business and get this done. And that is our temptation, to jump into something and take control of it. And here Satan is telling Jesus, you better take control because you can't trust God to look out after your best interest. He's leaving you out here to starve. And don't we fall into the same trap sometimes? I better take control of this because it's not happening the way I thought it should happen. Do you remember what Abraham and Sarah did when things didn't work out the way they thought it should happen? God said, I'm going to give you a son. I'm going to make you a great nation. But Abraham was, 99 years old? Sarah was right behind him. They said, hey, our day is done. We better fix this. And so Abraham sleeps with Hagar, Sarah's handmaiden. Ishmael is born. And the world of trouble that we're still suffering from today is going on because they try to take things into their own hands and do things and help God out. And God says, just trust me to do things that don't always make sense to you. This is what Satan says to us. Maybe you need to take matters into your own hands. Maybe you need to be in control. Maybe God is wanting you to step in and do His work. You say, well, we have to do something, Doug. We have to be busy. We have to be... Yes. What has He told us to do? He's told us to love. He's told us to love Him, to love each other. We have enough trouble with that. But we want to take everything else under our control too. He said, seek me and you'll find me. Trust me and I will care for you. This psalm that was read for us this morning from Psalm 31, it says, you will guide me. You will provide for me. You will be my fortress. You will give me the things I need. You will set me in a spacious place. You will do it. And we read that psalm, we go, yes, yes. But in our own lives, don't we want to grab control and say, but I'll do it for you. Thank you, God. I'll help you with this. The temptation number one Jesus received from Satan was you better take control because God's not going to provide for you the way you need it. Temptation number two, he said, God asked you to build a bigger kingdom and save these people from their sin. How are you going to do that? God had given Jesus a mandate. You're here to do my mission, which is to build a kingdom for me. And Satan says, okay, Jesus, how are you going to do it? What's your plan? Do you have all the things in a row that you need to get that done? Do you have financing? Do you have an army? Do you have advisors? Where are all your people? Where's your plan, Jesus? How are you going to affect this whole world? You're one guy. Has Jesus ever given you a task that's too big for you to do? Raise your hand. Everybody, raise your hand. Because He has. He's given every one of you a task that's too big for you to do. The question is, are we going to let Him do it through us, or are we going to try to manage it on our own? See, here's my struggle. Look out these windows over this valley. We've got about 300 people sitting here. But you look out over that valley, we're just a drop in the bucket. Say, well, there are a lot of churches here, Doug. A lot of people going to church. Yeah, but there are more people not going to church. There are more people who don't know the Lord. And He's called us to be a light into this community and to make a difference in this community. And sometimes we get content if we just make it over 300. And I asked myself, is it my fault or is it God's fault? Who's fallen down on the job? Who's trusting whom? God says, trust me. Seek me with all your heart. And I will lead you. And I will do for you the things that I need to get done when you seek me first. So He said, Jesus, you need a plan. You need to get everything under control. And He says, let me show you how you can do this. Let me show you how you can get this under control. All you have to do is look at me and worship me. And all these kingdoms of the world, they'll be yours. Now, we think for a minute, I always thought, doesn't God own everything to start with? Aren't all the kingdoms of the world His to start with? Well, the Bible tells us no. Who's the prince of this world? The Bible says Satan is the prince of this world. Satan is the one that this world follows. He is the leader of this world. We don't fit into the rest of the world. And yet he told Jesus, you go make a kingdom out of this world. And he tells you and me, you go and spread the borders of this kingdom. You go and make disciples of every nation. You get out and build my kingdom. And we think, how are we going to do that? We've got to have a plan. We've got to figure it all out. We've got to ABC, get the rules down and the steps. And that's what Satan's saying to Jesus. How are you going to do this? What's your plan? Let me show you how you can do this. Let me show you an easy way out. God's telling you you have to die. I'm telling you there's a better way. You don't have to die. And you don't have to lose some of them. I'll step back. I'll step out of the picture. I'll give it all to you. I won't tempt these people anymore. I will leave them alone. There will no longer be sickness. There will no longer be death, hatred, discord, fighting, wars, none of this stuff. I will leave them alone and give them all to you. Isn't that what God wants? Doesn't God want them all to follow you? Won't you be doing God's will if you just worship me and let me give all these back to you? That sounds kind of good. No more sickness, no more death, no more sin, nothing. Satan steps out of the world and we have heaven on earth. Isn't that what God wants? And he says, you're telling me to do this on my own, to make my own decision. But let me tell you this. I'm going to trust in God's guidance. I don't like where it's leading. I don't like the sacrifice it's going to mean. I don't like the pain. I don't like the separation. I don't like so much of it. I don't like the way you're going to hurt people and destroy nations. I don't like all the pestilence and all the sickness. But God has another plan. I don't get it all. But I'm going to trust Him enough to submit to His leading and obey. And He says, worship me only. And so in spite of all the things that are going to happen, in spite of all the hurt I'm going to go through, and they're going to go through, I'm going to hold true to God. And he resisted the temptation to take control of the situation. Temptation number 3. God promised to protect you. You hear Satan's voice to Jesus? God promised to protect you. Is He really dependable? And he quotes this scripture to him about God guarding him lest he even strike his foot on a stone. He says, how do you know that's true, Jesus? How do you know that God's going to come through? I mean, it's one thing to send a dove down. It's one thing to speak out of heaven, you're my son. It's another thing to step in when somebody's trying to kill you. It's another thing when somebody's slipping in a big crowd that you're following with a dagger in his hand and wants to take you out. It's another thing when the crowd gets ugly and they want to throw you off a cliff and smash your head with a rock. It's another. Is God going to be there? Is He going to keep you safe? You better find out. Before you put yourself out in front of all these other people, you better do a test run. It would be pretty embarrassing to get out in front of everybody and say, my God's going to take care of me, and then you get sick with cancer. Or somebody slips a dagger in your side. Or something else terrible happens and they go, yeah, God's going to take care of you. Have you ever felt abandoned by God? Have you ever felt left out? Like God wasn't, maybe He's sleeping that day, taking a nap? Sometimes we don't like the way God cares for us, do we? And Satan's saying, you better make sure before you get out there. And Jesus responds to him. He says, I'm going to trust God instead of you. I'm going to trust God instead of me. It was a great temptation for him to take control again, to fall into that big lie. But Jesus resisted it. I see these temptations in a different light when I realize what Satan's really trying to do with Jesus. To make Jesus step out of the role of servant and step into the role of master. To step out of the role of the vessel and be the maker of the vessel. To be the one in control, the one in charge. And that is our temptation all the time. And we struggle because we're called to work, and yet we're called to wait. We're called to trust. So how do we do this? How do we give up control? Just about 4 things very quickly I want to share with you. Practical things we need to do to give up control. Number 1, let God set the agenda. Make sure that God is setting the agenda. You see, too many times we want to take control of the agenda. We want to set the things that God has got in mind for us. We want to say, here's what's important. I'm going to do this, do this, do this. We're going to get these resumes out. We're going to get these resumes in. We're going to take control of this. We'll do A, B, C, D. And then when it doesn't work out right, we wonder why didn't it work out? It says first. You guys, I'm sure have this memorized. Matthew 6:33. You got that memorized? It says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and what else gets added to us? Everything else. He said, let God set the agenda. You seek Him first. And everything else will be taken care of. Seek Him first. Ask what God's priority list is for you today. See, this isn't something I can do once and then I know it. I have to know today. God, what do you want me to do today? When I get up in the morning, my mind is scattered. I don't know about yours, but it gets focused immediately on the to-do list. And I need to stop and say, okay, put the to-do list aside. God, what is your agenda today? Number 2, we need to make every minute count. Okay. A wise use of time is right for any Christian. He tells us to use the time wisely. But running yourself ragged, as though it all depended on you, is not a wise use of your time. We need to allow God to order our calendars. Allow God to order our days, order our schedules. I've used the phrase so many times, and I've heard you use it too. I'm just so busy. I don't have time for this. I can't do this. I can't do one more thing. I can't spend time in prayer. I can't spend time in reading. I can't spend time going to another church function. I can't do the service activity. I'm so busy. I've got so many things going on. I can't do it. Have you been there? Who is running your schedule? We have to do business with God about our schedules. Are we going to trust Him, or are we going to trust ourselves? Running ourselves ragged as though it all depended on us is a ploy that Satan uses to separate us from the will of God. Number 3, choose your fight. Christ called us to be ready to die for the cause. He called us to be ready to sacrifice ourselves. But choose your fight. Be sure that the cause that you're fighting for is not a selfish one. Be sure that the cause you're fighting is God's cause and not something less than that. We've seen so many church fights and bickering between Christians. And Christians have destroyed so much of what God has tried to do in the world. A lot of people say, I want to know about Jesus. I just want nothing to do with this church. I don't want anything to do with His people. I see what His people do. They bicker, they fight, it's not a pretty picture. Jesus says, here's how people will know that you are my disciples if you do what? The way you love each other. And sometimes we pick a fight, we pick a ground to stand on, or we pick a hill to die on, and it's over a preference instead of over something that's God's agenda. We pick an agenda to stand on, and maybe our fight is what type of music do we sing? Or what type of... I don't know. We go. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. We pick agendas that deal with my likes and dislikes, what my comfort zone is, what my history is, instead of what God's real message is. If I want to be surrendered to God, I need to make sure and pick His fights and not mine. The problem is, His fights sometimes get us killed. Jesus died. The apostles died. They were killed because they stood for Jesus, because they fought His fight. It's a lot easier to stand around with people who are like you and kind of bicker amongst each other. But to really get out in the world and to fight the fight that Jesus fights, that's a little scary. Pick your fights. Make sure they're Jesus fights. And then never give in. Never give up. Persistence is a Christian virtue. Not giving up. But insistence. Not persistence, but insistence. When I insist on something, that's a product of a soul set out for control. When I insist that it be this way, this is the way it's got to be, that means I want to be in control. I want to make sure that it's done the way I like it, the way I'm comfortable with. Insistence is not persistence. Persistence is saying, I will not give up in my surrender to Christ. I will not give up in my following His agenda. I will not give up. I will not turn back. I will not be afraid. I will trust God. Commitment grows out of discipleship. But stubbornness is just a vehicle of control. He says we need to be people who give up control. Not being stubborn about something, but being committed to God's ways. Never give in. We struggle with control, don't we? It's a spiritual war. It's a spiritual battle. And Jesus told us, Paul told us, in Ephesians chapter 6, he says, our struggle is not against flesh and blood. What's it against? Our struggle is against the powers of evil, the powers of darkness in heavenly places. That there is a spiritual world, there is a Satan, and there are his demons, and they're out to control us. And one of the biggest tools they use is by thinking we need to be in control. And he says, stop. Give up yourself. Surrender yourself. This week, great news. Karina Clark gave up. She surrendered. She said, I've done this all wrong. I've tried to do it myself. I've tried to do everything my way. Karina is the daughter of Paul and Terry Lynn Osborne. And she surrendered her life on Wednesday to God and died right here in this baptistry when she was buried into Christ's death. She said, I've made a mess of my life. I'm giving up control to Jesus. And she set out to do things His way instead of her way. Giving up control is hard. And yet that's what God calls us to. He says, don't lean on your own understanding. Commit your ways to the Lord. Submit your ways to the Lord. And He will guide you. Let's pray. Father, here we are. We struggle with this issue. You know how we struggle with it. We want to be in control. We want to know what's going to happen. We want a blueprint of all the days ahead of us. We want to make sure things work out right. But Father, I confess to you that our wisdom is imperfect at best. So please give us the wisdom to trust in your wisdom. Give us the wisdom, Father, to surrender to you. Give us what we need, Father. Understanding of who you are, of your power, of your love. Don't let us be captured by the world and its ways, Father. Help us. Help us to die to ourselves and live for you. May your agenda, may your presence be seen in our lives today And this week, God, lead us so that your name is praised. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. We're going to sing a song, beautiful song. It says, I will serve you because I've loved you, because you have given life to me. You have given life to me. God has said, let me show you how much I loved you. I will send my Son to die on a cross so that you have the hope of life eternal. Not only life eternal after you die, but I want you to have abundant life today while you live in this world. I give this to you not because you deserve it, not because you're so good, but because I loved you. And so the message comes back to us. The question comes to me and to you. How do we respond to God's love? The song says, I will serve you. I will surrender myself, and I'll serve you. So when we sing this song, there's an invitation. If you need to do some business with God, if you need to spend time in prayer, our elders are standing in the back here ready to spend time with you in prayer. To go to God and lift you up and encourage you and to seek God's way instead of our own way. If you need to do business with God, we invite you while we sing this song to meet with our elders and pray. But if you are ready to surrender your life and to give your life and die in this baptistry today, to surrender your life to God and say, I'm all yours, then we will invite you to do that and come down here while we stand and sing this song.